Hello, my name is Rebecca Norton, and today we're going to be discussing an article titled, Does Anyone Care About Elementary Social Studies? Dilemmas of Teaching Elementary Social Studies Methods Within a High Stakes Testing Context. So, the article discussed four different dilemmas that teachers deal with whenever there is high stakes testing involved in social studies. The first dilemma would be the way that the teacher views social studies, which affects how they teach it. So if all teachers have had is a bad experience with social studies, they don't like it, they think it's boring, then they are most likely to not teach it, or whenever they do teach it, just giving a worksheet out and having students complete that and then be done with social studies altogether. But if a teacher has a good background on social studies, then they are more likely to be involved in trying to incorporate the social studies curriculum with the high stakes testing as well, even though it's not tested in most states. The second dilemma with dealing with it with high stakes testing is lacking professional development. Teachers often have limited access to social studies professional developments, is what a study said in my article. Um, this basically means that teachers need to find time, or the principals need to have people coming in that have more social studies experience for the teachers to learn more about social studies and how to teach it to their students while also dealing with all these other subjects as well. And a point that the article had made was that upcoming teachers only have one required class before they graduate, which is what the class we are in right now. But um, students, whenever they're in college, also have the opportunity to go to professional developments in social studies areas. The third dilemma would be differing expectations. Some principals say they don't emphasize social studies because they don't want to burden the teachers. They said that they don't want to overwhelm them by giving them too much material at a time. And this is really hard for teachers if they don't have the right materials. So it's really important that we stress to the principals as well as the teachers that social studies is important in elementary school. The fourth dilemma being their scheduling, whichever school. So if a school is on block scheduling or an hourly schedule, it's really hard to find time, is what these teachers had said in my article. So, and most, like we had talked about in class, most of the time teachers do like 30 minutes after recess or something like that. So, expressing to teachers that you can incorporate social studies into other subjects is really important as well. Um, After reading this article, I really felt like that overall, as a country, that we aren't prioritizing social studies at all. So we need to make it a priority to teach it interdisciplinary with other subjects, with like English language arts. We can do reading books, not just like Little House on the Prairie, like like our teacher had mentioned, but also reading. You even reading the social studies textbooks is English language arts. So it's just important to use them as an interdisciplinary, and also just making the time to teach your students about social studies is important as well. What I got from this article. Another thing that I got from this article that I plan to use in my future classroom is trying to convey, even though if I didn't have a good experience, like if I don't like the Civil War, I still need to make that interesting for my students. So I need to find a way to not necessarily make myself like it, but just making it a way to cover up what I like, that I don't like it, to my students. I don't want to convey that I think it's boring. I want to convey to my students that I think it's interesting so that they find it interesting, even if I don't think it's interesting. And the last thing that I really want to implement into my future classroom, and I thought of this example whenever I read the article, was like even just doing like taking a picture of your class and then every single week throughout school, and at the end of the year students can use that as like a timeline to compare like what they look like or their different outfits or just like different times of the day. And that's an example of social studies without even, that takes 2 seconds to take a picture of the entire class or what we are doing that day. So that will be implementing social studies. They'll learn about timelines, and the students may not even know at the time that's what's going on, that they're learning social studies. So it's just all about making social studies interesting to the students, finding the time to teach social studies, even if it's with other subjects, and going to professional developments that help me learn techniques to teach social studies to my students.